All right, welcome back to Thin of Things. I'm Todd Daniel Crawford,
And Lexicino.
and today we're going to be talking about basically how artists adjusted or how COVID affected their life and what they do.
Yeah, I think we were going to talk more so post-COVID. I think that's kind of what we set up, but
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
kind of,
I meant kind of how it changed things, the landscape, because I still consider us in COVID, to be honest. I just think that like the
yeah,
rules have steadily changed.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely not like back to normal. Like how you said, there's like pre-COVID, COVID, and post-COVID, and it will forever be post-COVID. Like,
Exactly. This is a terrible comparison, but I always did you ever see the Silent Hill movie?
no,
Okay, people say it's not very good. I saw as a kid, like at the age where everything was good, so I liked
right.
it. But basically, at the end of the movie, they go home, but then everything back home is like Silent Hill. Like they never quite things aren't the same, and that's kind of how I
Yeah,
feel like the world post COVID is, where they're like, no, everything's normal, but it's got this like blue filter over it, and everybody's just a little
yeah.
bit angrier and ruder, and life just never really started
Sadder.
back up. They just kind of told us we could leave our homes again.
Like, we'll just let them go. Just let them loose.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out.
Well, it drives me crazy. I don't want to get too political or anything, but it really pisses me off because now they're saying like the pandemic's over and you can start paying student loans again and all this other stuff's happening. And it's like, what changed? Because if you're going to say the
Yeah.
vaccines, like the vaccines have been out for a very long time, what changed between the first month they're out and now? People are still getting it. Um, they're still getting it very severely in cases that I've seen from people I know, and the economy is worse than ever. And they keep saying a recession's coming. So it's like if these are the good times,
I
why are
know the
we
recession. Yeah, these are the good times.
like? It's a little
The
early for a
recession is
victory lap.
already here. I feel like the recession is pretty much already here.
I did too.
Um, they're just like trying to like lessen the blow. Like
Yeah, maybe
it's
that's what it
it's
is.
coming. It's coming.
They keep saying it's coming so that we're like, oh, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. And they're going to be like, see, it's all over now. That wasn't so bad, was it?
Everybody's zombies at that point.
Yeah,
Like,
let's hope so. So going back to I guess we'll just start once things got normal after COVID. We can skip the whole lockdown era. Um, how
that
would you
works.
say it affected you and what you do and what you're able to do, or how you approach what you do?
Um, I mean, like normal work wise, you know, like
Hmm.
aside from the artist life,
Yeah,
it really didn't feel like much changed at all because like I was working throughout the entirety of lockdown.
yeah,
Um, not like I mean, I was still struggling financially, you know. I wouldn't say like I
yeah,
was doing well, but like that aspect of it didn't really feel any different to me because like I was still working part-time. Um, and like I'm still working part-time now at a restaurant, which was kind of like my main thing. I took some time and I worked at a daycare for a few months and I actually really liked that. And then I had to step away from that for a couple of months for health reasons.
hmm
And like that sucked because, you know, disability is stupid and doesn't actually like to help people who
yeah.
need
It seems I
disability.
hate to say it, but it seems like whenever there's some like bum that just doesn't want to work, they get it, no issues. And then I know people like in a wheelchair or they
Hmm.
have like cerebral palsy and they can't get it and disability is like no we don't think you need it but then someone just decides to stop working and they just get everything. It's the exact opposite of how it should function.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to go down that road because
Yeah.
that will get.
That could be another
But
episode. Actually I do think legitimately that could be a great episode, like should artists qualify for disability, should they be forced to work, because a lot of them are kind of, I guess the term's neuroatypical, and it's a legitimate
yeah,
discussion that I'm interested in having.
yeah, I will. Yeah, we can put that on the back burner actually
All
because
right.
I'm interested in actually doing like research and statistics for that one instead of us just being like,
That's
well,
I'm just gonna
so
make statistics up and pretend I research things.
we feel as though artists should get disability because like I feel like there should be more of a preparation before we
No,
just
that sounds
start.
good. We could do that.
Um, yeah, I'm definitely I'll start looking. That's I never really thought about that. Um, but but okay, see, this is our
Sorry, I
problem.
threw
We
you
always
off. I remember where you were at this time though. You were at the daycare. You had to stop for a few months. Disability was fucking you around.
right. But I think that was the time that I was finally able to get myself to like focus
Hmm.
on writing again. Um, because the lockdown like destroyed me artistically. Like I know we're not
Hmm.
gonna get like super into that, but it was just like a lot of people I think felt just like they hit a wall, and they
Yeah.
like they just couldn't go anywhere with their work anymore. And that along with like everything just kind of like depleting your energy for your passions, because of just how the state of the world. I hadn't done much for almost a year. Um, and I think it was finally like those couple of months, I was like, you know what? Like instead of just laying here, hating my life, why don't I lay here and hate my life and write about it?
Yeah.
Like, which is basically what I do anyway. So,
It is sense isn't like the creative process kind of I always consider it like a form of alchemy where you're taking a negative thing, rumination, you're taking shit and you're turning it into gold by making it instead of it's just rumination, overthinking, you turn it into something
right.
creative.
Yeah. Um, and I know at that time, um, I was also trying to start to do shows again because what I saw happen for musicians specifically around my area was there was such an increase of support in local music shows, such an increase
Mm-hmm.
in that, and such an increase in like new bands, you know what I mean? Like new material and like that drive of like everybody wanted to be able to go out and hang out with friends and enjoy themselves. Everybody
Yeah.
wanted to be able to play music again. Everyone wanted to see live music again, but money only allowed for local instead of traveling. You know what I mean? So like especially
Yeah.
small towns like where I am, I got to see such a surge, and like that energy and just like everybody actually like supporting each other again. And like there's this one venue here that like I think towards the end of the lockdown really started getting into booking like shows. Like they redid their whole back room. Used to be a
Mm-hmm.
pool room. It's called the West York Inn. They call it the Kennel at the West York Inn. Um, and they're freaking booming now. Like they're getting like bigger bands like touring and crap now in there. And like it's been amazing to see that grow. Like, so I think that was another thing that pushed me during that time period because I was like, you know what? I'm gonna use this and I'm gonna get back out there. I'm gonna start writing again. I'm gonna start booking shows again, and all this stuff. And booking took time and I really didn't get too many because everybody was already booked because there was such a high demand.
Yeah.
Um, so that part was slow coming for me, but able to actually, I think another thing that I really appreciated during that time of not really being able to work was that it gave me more time to go out, you know what I mean, and support
Mm-hmm.
and go see like people and everything. Um, which also I think just like lit a fire under my ass again because I was like, this is what I've missed. This is what I love doing. Like, but I booked a couple of shows and it was um two actual like punk music venues that let me open with poetry. And I was like, it was huge for me, coming back in to do
Yeah.
something like that. Because we talked about like, you know what I mean? How that's always been like one of my huge fights and everything is to get like poetry and music like on the same bill. And I focus a lot on the punk
Exactly.
music scene. It is a dream of mine for people to start moshing to one of my poems. at some point, like just
That,
like screaming words into a mic.
I was gonna say, yeah, like I don't think that's impossible, but I do think it's gonna take like deliberation.
I almost made it happen at my last show.
Maybe you could just, if you want to cheat, you could pay someone to start it.
Just run around and start like hitting people.
Yeah,
That's what I should have done.
I mean that it might kill the. It might make less of an accomplishment if you're paying someone to start it, but it would still technically happen.
It's true. It's also a dream of mine to perform somewhere and have like people start throwing beer cans at me and like booing me off stage.
Like the Runaways.
Yeah. I'm like, I feel like if I do that, then like my career will have peaked. And I'll be like, that's it. I don't need to do anything anymore.
That's funny. That's a funny way of looking. Well, a big thing for me with COVID was really I would say right before it, I was the busiest that I had been with a lot of things, like going here, going there, trying to book this, trying to do all that stuff. And that's cool, that's fun. But for me personally, like doing the long shot books thing was one side of it, but that wasn't about me. For me, I was really kind of the opposite, where I had done, I think, two readings in person, and I only intend to do one, and that's the one that I invited you to with my book release. And thank you again for driving all the way there and doing it. That was great.
Of
Um,
course, dude.
I'm sorry, what?
I said, of course, dude.
Oh, thanks. Um, but that was all I intended to do. It was really a one-off thing, basically just to kind of prove it, I don't know, to anyone, to myself or whatever. I was going through a really harsh breakup at the time, so like I was over the breakup, but I was still kind of dealing with the aftermath because it was like a 7 year thing. So it was like the first year after that 7 years. Even though I was seeing someone else who was at the show, so I don't know. Maybe that was a bit.
Dude, that's how it works. That's what it's like being a writer, man.
Yeah,
Like,
you're like living all of your different eras of yourself at once. You're like Ziggy
yeah,
Stardust and the Thin White Duke and Black Star all at the same time.
no, listen, that's so funny because oh my gosh, it was a few months ago. I had like that exact conversation with somebody because
Hmm.
someone was telling me that I needed to stop living in my past. And I was like, I am a poet, I am a writer. I live all of my lives at once on double speed. Like, I
Yeah.
cannot.
No, it's
So,
very much like I was really into quantum theory for a while, not seriously into it, but just like theoretically interested in it. And that's really how it feels, where like at the same time, I think that we're so used to considering different outcomes and possibilities and all the what ifs, because that's really what being a writer is a lot of the time, especially if you're not doing historical, if you're doing something fictitious or even just autobiographical. I still think obviously you're going through the past with autobiography, but with fiction, really all your job is to say, what if this happens? And then what if that happens? And what if this person is there when that happens? So it's a natural line
right.
of thinking to do all that stuff. But anyhow, I felt very, I had just been, I don't know, I ended the movie company I was a part of for a while. So there's a lot of self doubt. So I really want to do like a successful show of some sort to prove myself wrong, I guess, is really the thing. I had a string of failures, so I needed a W for once. And then I was asked to do another, which is very kind of that person, and that went well. I was super hungover, like the most I'd ever been in my life, and I puked probably 30 times that day, and I made it through my set without puking on stage, so that was a huge
Nice.
accomplishment for me. Like I'm seriously proud of that. um
No, you should be. You should be. That's,
so
we've all been there, man.
so then we did your book release, and that was right before COVID, like a week before COVID, if not two. It was very, very close.
It was
It was
2 weeks
February.
before. Yeah, because all right, and see, this is a good like little roundabout to get bring us back to now.
Hmm.
Because everything good over there?
Yeah, no, it's just Facebook. I'll turn that off so we won't hear that noise the rest of this. I didn't think to
Yeah,
do
fuck
that
your
before.
Facebook.
Yeah, just so many people just want to get a
No,
hold of me.
I know. I understand that you're in high demand, but I would
Yeah.
be booked for this spot. So,
Exactly. No, it's like Taylor Swift, please
yeah.
stop commenting on my pictures. Fuck. I think you froze.
Oh
Okay, I
no, it
heard.
froze.
Okay, you unfroze. You thawed.
Okay.
Okay.
I said Taylor Swift was I said she was just calling me.
Oh, that's probably why you froze, because she was calling. She's like, "Are you talking to Todd? I need him right now."
I need him right now.
And I'm like, Taylor, no, your new album wasn't good enough. You got to get back in the studio and
It
you got to
wasn't.
earn the Todd time.
Folklore and Evermore were like beautiful, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of upset. Not gonna
Yeah.
lie. But anyway, this isn't more quick for Taylor. She's got enough
She's given the
enough
world
going
enough.
on
She earned a failure or two in her career.
there. But so the release show that we did out there, and we kind of did like the interview thing for the documentary and
Yeah.
all that. Like, and I was so stoked on that because 2 weeks later I had two shows in Philly, and I was doing
Yeah.
my first like quote unquote mini tour. Like it wasn't really a tour, but made me feel good
It's a lot
about
more than most
myself.
people
So
do. Nobody goes on tour anymore, even pre-COVID. I think Taylor's calling you again. Okay, you're good. Or you were.
you there?
Yeah, okay.
Hey, hold on. Give me a minute. I'm gonna switch rooms.
Okay.
And then hopefully that might help a bit. It might be the spotty internet connection. But
I've heard sometimes
yeah,
connections falter when ghosts are passing through the room and stuff like that.
oh yeah, dude, my attic is fucked. We can do another like just side episode about ghosts. Has nothing to do with artists or anything.
That'd be fine, yeah. Why not?
Oh, so one of the shows I was supposed to do was a basement punk show, which was
Hmm.
the only other like punk show that I had ever done before that point. Is like this guy, just took a chance on me randomly because I was like bitching about, not being able to like perform at places and everything on Facebook. And he's like, yo, I totally book you for a punk show at like my house venue. And I was like, word, I don't know you, guy. So this will be sketchy, but I'm in. And like, it was in Manioc. And it was awesome. And I was so excited 2 years later, you know what I mean, to get back out there and do it again.
Oh
I was
yeah.
like, this is great. Like, start off like the release show in Pittsburgh, then a back-to-back shows at an anarchist bookstore in a basement, like punk show. Like, I was like, this is gonna be great. And we went out and did the bookstore, the Wooden Shoe, and Chris reached out to me and was like, I gotta cancel the house show, like with everything that's been like closing down and all this stuff. He was like, I
Yeah.
can't. It's just
Well,
such a tight space. People are canceling. And I was like, damn, dude. And I was like, okay, but I understand. Like, it is a house. You know what I mean? It's not like,
yeah, fair enough.
and there's a lot of like, gonna be a lot of sweaty punks. You know what I mean?
Well,
Jumping all over each other.
to cue people in who may not remember or weren't like involved with anything like this at the time, it really was a situation of like you're on a ship and everything's sailing fine. Then all of a sudden you see like a little trickle, and then all of a
Hmm.
sudden the whole ship is flooding. Like I remember how it was like I heard like one concert canceled or something like that, one show, and then it was like, oh wow, because you heard about COVID, but it wasn't a huge thing until it was.
Right.
It was like
Exactly.
conspiracy theorists were worried about it. And you were like a freak if you were worried about COVID. Legitimately, you were like a doomsday prepper or something. And then all of a sudden, it was here and it was everywhere. And everything was getting canceled all at once, all at the same time. It was like the same day. It was fucking insane.
Yeah, because like I went back and literally the next day, that's why I remember this like so vividly. The next day they announced like the full on lockdown, and
Yeah.
literally all of my shows for like the release of my book and everything just got completely canceled. And I was like, fuck, man, like how am I gonna recover from this? Like you said, because like
Yeah.
that that was the biggest like momentum that I had,
I can
and like,
imagine. I remember it was like I remember just witnessing it like secondhand and being like, "Holy shit, this is really taking off." And then COVID was just like just shooting the plane out of the air.
you're like, bet. We're gonna crush your dreams real quick. And I mean, a lot of people stayed as passionate and artistic and hopeful as they could. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
At first. And then, like I said, and it was wonderful then to like see this huge rise and like get back out there myself slowly, And
Yeah,
my first show I did was at JB Loves Draft. JB Loves Drafts. I don't know why I can't talk right now.
because it's 10:30
in
at night.
in Harrisburg, PA. And I got to open up for a couple of local bands, Rufus and the Analog Nightmare, Smileyfoot, which Smileyfoot is amazing. And then what was it Bob Fleming and the Cambria Co., who was touring. I forget where they're based from, but like it was just a really interesting, like fun show. It was the first time I had been on a stage, and I don't know how long. Like, and I had a guy come up to me from Smileyfoot and was like, I don't know what I thought like a poetry opener for a punk show was gonna be, but that was like way better than anything I could imagine. And like I just like melted, like literally just like melted down to the floor.
Like
Like
Amelie.
he had to step over me. Like
That's
no,
pretty
like
cool,
and I
especially
never
from someone like that you're just talking up that you really respect.
yeah, and I'm like I can't like I don't know. Then I had this feeling of like, okay, like I might be able to actually like salvage something, right?
Hmm.
And was October 14th. This was probably the only good thing that happened in fucking October. So I had my other show, and that's just where like everything finally started connecting and like feeling good again. And the guy Chris, who originally booked me for the house show,
Hmm.
like I contacted him, and his band came from Philly to headline for this show. And it was at the West Inn venue I was talking about earlier. Um, I had a band from Baltimore, a band from Salisbury, Maryland, and it was amazing. It was a great turnout for the venue, you know what I mean, that we had
Hmm.
and everything. Um, and I made a lot of connections that kind of just made me feel like, okay, no, like I think I have been, trying to do the right thing this whole time. I had another like person from a local like punk band come up and say that like we would love to, have you on one of our bills sometime. Um, and One Sided is gonna try and do a show with me in Pittsburgh next year, actually. So, you'll have to come out to that.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm trying to book two out there in Pittsburgh. One like an actual like music one, and then one a more like intimate one,
Hmm.
like at White Whales,
Oh yeah,
something like that.
White Whales has really blown up. Actually, speaking of the people that have like landed on their feet from COVID, I just walked past there the other day when I was picking my car up from the mechanics, and it was like twice the size as it used to be, and now they're serving like beer and they have a stage and all this stuff.
What?
Yeah,
No
yeah, no, it's
way.
crazy. They had a major glow up.
That is awesome. That makes me so happy too, because I feel like the places that probably need it the most were like little cafes and bookstores and like
Exactly. I've seen so many like mid to small tier businesses just close the last 2 years, and it's
yeah,
not
and
stopping.
yeah, and it really sucks. That's another reason why like booking shows moving forward, like I want to do both ends. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I don't want it all to just be like me doing huge like music shows or whatever. Like I also want to do shows with just poets. I want to sit in like a cafe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like connect with people and support that business just as much. Something very, very important to me. And like I'm gonna be recording again next
Hmm.
year. I'm going to be planning a trip to Philly for a week, doing some recording there with because his band One Sided. And then when I'm in Pittsburgh with Wendy, I'll probably do a little bit of recording too. So like that's awesome. I had two other bands say that they would love to have me like collab with them on a track. Like everything's just been like falling into place,
That's really
now in this
cool.
area. And I'm like, awesome, like this is the momentum I needed. But now every other area of my life is like collapsing. So
That's how
I
it
feel like the
goes.
whole, yeah, so it's like, aha, see, you get your dreams back. But
It's like you're making an RPG character, and it's like if you max out on like creative momentum, then like family life zero, mental health zero, money zero, but you have 100% creative momentum.
100, you can never have 100% creative momentum and even like somewhat stability mentally. Like it's
No,
not, it does not coexist.
no, I think that's probably a big reason that a lot of people that do seem to have that die so young.
Yeah.
Then again,
No,
I
yeah, it just ties back to everything.
I've been like the last few years watching like a lot of documentaries on different artists and stuff, and Marina actually lent me a book on Picasso, and it's called Picasso: A Life of the Artist, and it's just his young years, and that really struck me how it's summing up one era of his art because he had many obviously
Mhm.
is a life. And it was really kind of inspirational to think about that, how we have these different phases and we kind of take that for granted because the media might sell like an artist's most popular phase is what they are. But that's like
Yeah,
5 years out of 90.
true. That's a good perspective. I like that. I like that idea because I think that's something that artists in general should probably keep in mind, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's really hard
But
not to because you're always trying to find that one thing that's going to define you, but that's just not how reality works. It's how ego works, maybe, but
I mean, vodka defines me.
I feel I'm trying not to drink as much this month. Right, October I was because I had a lot of vacation time. Because it would be fun to drink with this, to do an episode with us drinking.
Yeah, I probably should slow down. This is unsweet tea, by the
Oh,
way.
is it real? Oh,
For
that makes
for
me
the
feel better. Okay,
yeah,
I don't
for
mind
the
if you were
people who
drinking. I
can't
just feel
see.
bad not joining you. Well, I just like to take phases sometimes of not drinking because just a because it's healthier, but b just so you don't have that worry about addiction or anything. Like I don't think I have that, but sometimes
Right.
it's nice just to take a month off. Just be like, yeah, I don't need that at all. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's to remind yourself, like
Yeah, it's just kind of
I am,
liberating.
yeah, I am able to do like to do without. I just enjoy it.
What's funny about our different like post COVID trajectories is it's really like we took completely opposite approaches and went on completely separate journeys, which is funny because you went more like outward once the world opened up. You branched out, you made connections. I did the opposite where I just made like a website, which I see as like my battleship, and I just like became like a hermit, an artistic hermit that's just like very aggressive and very like defensive um and just kind of realizing like that what hit me yeah I was writing a book during COVID that I was really enjoying writing, and then after so many this is like during lockdown time I developed acute like really really bad agoraphobia, and I also need glasses at the time. So like my eyesight was going really bad. I couldn't drive anymore. I couldn't read. I couldn't like do anything
I
because
do
my
remember
eyesight.
talking about this actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm repeating myself then. It's
No,
been a
no, no,
while
no, no.
since we
I'm just
recorded
saying I
last.
do. Yeah. Um, no, but I'm glad that you brought that up because it took me forever to be okay going like back out again steadily like that
Yeah.
because I too like agoraphobia hit me really bad because of the lockdown, and I think that's some.
Yeah.
I mean, the suicide rates went up too.
Yeah.
Like it really, really messed a lot of people up in that way.
I know
Um,
a lot of people our age, almost everybody our age, honestly, that I talk to, is affected to some degree with those things, like depression worsening, agoraphobia.
yeah.
I really don't know many people unaffected by it.
Well, and I wanted to actually ask you because you were talking about how different it was for us, but like our dynamics were also different because Long Shot Books was doing like really, really well at the time. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That my book was published, like you
yeah,
had other people and other stuff going on. Um, and I was like trying to do stuff with you guys, like the interview and everything, just to keep things like interesting and
yeah. And thank you for that.
Um, I mean, like, I don't work with people that I don't actually enjoy or support. Like,
Same.
that's one of my it's one of my biggest things is like, so, but I just saw like how Longshot now is just like struggling. You know what I mean? To even like
Yeah. Well,
revive a little bit.
I mean, I don't want to say too much because there's a lot of factors that aren't me, that I'm not necessarily at
Right.
liberty to talk about. But a big thing that I can say it's affected me is like, and this is a big thing with long shot where with projects, it's like it used to be exciting, like, oh, we're doing this, it's fun. Now it's like anxious, anxiety inducing, where it's like a Pavlovian negative response. Not that I don't want to do things,
Right.
but I mean, I hate to say it, but the example I always say is when we were getting those offers when COVID was first starting, we were saying to people, listen, the economy's supposed to get hit pretty hard. People are losing their jobs. There's a lot of these factors. And today, how many years has it been now? 2, I guess. Almost 3, maybe 3. I mean, everything's worse than it was when we were preparing. It got so much worse than we expected. And for a while, there was a level of responsibility of should we be putting things out at a time where people are struggling to pay for groceries? Should we be putting books out and trying to advertise and solicit? There was kind of a moral quandary we were struggling with. And at this point, um, it's just things. I kind of feel like COVID was like America fell to the ground, and then the last few years have just been it getting hit with a lead pipe, and it's really hard to excuse things financially, I guess I can say, because putting a book out, not everyone, but a lot of them wind up being a lot of money. And even
Yeah.
even if we make it back, we don't like. I've never taken a cent from Longshot Books, and neither has Marine. And so like it's all investment in terms of our personal like how we do it from our pockets. And with things with like families or the economy, the cost of rent, groceries, all that, um, it's just making it impossible to do much of anything but bunker down and prepare for the worst more. It's a time to be like fortifying, not growing, unfortunately. Because there's been a lot of stuff I've wanted to do. There's been a lot of things with long shot books. There's been a lot of moments where I'm like, I just want to fucking end this because I can't deal with this guilt, with this stress of having this company and not feeling like I can responsibly do what I am proud of, work that I'm proud of with it because of this economy. And because also work, I used to work, I don't know, like 40 hours a week, and that got up to, I don't know, 50 or 60 or whatever. I'm not saying it's every week, but so many factors like that have made it so difficult to commit to something confidently is what's tough.
Yeah.
Is that there's ideas or there's times where it's like, I want to do this. And it's like, but will I be able to?
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And I didn't really think about all of that from like that perspective. And I don't know that I'd be able to actually run, a business like that.
Yeah, like
I
in
know I've talked about,
2018 when we started, it was totally different. It's just COVID just fucked it so bad that it's really a situation like, how do we pick all this up? How do we make this function
um,
now?
yeah, and I mean, and that right there, I think just kind of shows the dynamic of kind of what this like conversation for this podcast was for is the wow, you see such a huge blow up in these area for artists, for these people and everything. And then you look over here, you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like we're actually hindering like worse in this section than we were when, everything first happened. And like
Well,
just
that's, oh, sorry, not to cut you off.
Well, no, that's okay. It's just like the range of which everything has been affected versus how bad, and it like
Yeah, yeah, for
is
sure.
insane.
And, I mean, I'm not saying anything about long shot. Like Marie and I have had talks. We're looking at stuff. There's been, unfortunately, some tragedy that struck very recently that just kind of, it's like we had chess pieces in place, moving forward a plan, and then the table was just flipped on us again. So
Oh
it's
God.
it's
I'm
just,
saying, will you guys ever have a break?
I don't know, but that's okay because how I see it sometimes is when I look at people that are seen as successful or whatever, and um, it's not them as people or the work that they do. There's some artists I don't get along with that put a lot of work into what they do or are good at what they
Right.
do, but they may not be my cup of tea. But when I look at a lot of people like that, I feel bad for them more than I envy them. Where I'm like, I am so glad that I have my situation. Like the
Yeah.
project I've been working on, um, is just like basically a Google Doc with a timeline, and I update it, and it starts a short story, and then it became an anthology, and then it became a multimedia project to the point now where like I'm recording myself writing stuff for it, and you could watch it in real time as I like make a typo and erase it, and it's become like
That's freaking
performance art
insane.
where like I
Yeah, it
really,
is. It is. I have not been able to watch one of those yet, and I'm
oh,
sorry.
it's okay, I don't blame you. They're probably boring as hell. It's
No, well, I mean, okay, so as a writer, I probably would find that fascinating. Like, I'd probably like turn that on and like put some like classical music on in the background and like crack open a beer.
Thanks. Yeah, I've had some people watch them that they said they enjoyed them, which was very nice. I don't expect anybody to watch or pay attention to what I do. How I've learned to look at things. Like I said, I was working on a book and agoraphobia hit, and like it really made writing, like I didn't want to leave the house because I was so afraid that something would happen to prevent me from finishing the book. So writing this way, other than just the creative, like the meta commentary on learning how to write again, which is what a lot of
Right.
it's about, um, it's the only way I can do it and function with a normal life, because then I don't have to worry about if something happens to me. If I get in a car accident and die, nobody will ever see all this work that I put into this. Um, so it really just became a thing for my own mental stability, just so that I could function and not almost rush to finish a project before something could prevent me from finishing it.
Yeah, I see it, and I love that because it's always about finding a way, like finding a different approach towards something
Yeah,
to find that love for it again. You know, when something has
definitely.
like defeated you in such a way, it's all about like the way we go about, like, and I guess that's the takeaway, I think,
Yeah,
of
it's just
the of this
adaptation.
project, like is the adapt like you have to find it. It's not that that passion is gone. It's not that the love you've had for something isn't there anymore. You know what I mean? You just got to find a way that, like, for you, it was more mental than it was about like the love for it. Like you knew you still had a love for it. You just needed to figure out a way, you know what I mean, around the part
Yeah.
that
Well, I
like
think
was
I think the best example I could give is like, I forget the exact term, which kind of pisses me off, but when like a mother's paranoid that her child's sick, even the child isn't sick, and they're so concerned about the child it actually becomes unhealthy for the child.
isn't that a hypochondriac?
I think that's it. That's at least when someone's concerned about themselves being sick, but
Yeah,
that
but
works
there,
as
yeah,
well. I
but
think
yeah,
it's hypochondria, but for a child. That's like what I got like for my writing. So it became something I cared about so much it gave me anxiety rather than giving me excitement.
yeah. And I mean like that's basically trauma. Like a huge, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
like life event happened that made an aspect of something, you know what I mean, traumatic, which then just made it more, fearful than enjoyable. And again, I think that's is a good way to wrap up exactly like what we were catching up on and talking about. Like I think that's what happened to a lot of artists in general,
yeah,
and then when they, let us loose, we're like, hey, have fun. Everybody kind of had to figure out, a way to go about everything again. And I'm sure every artist's level was different, you know what I mean, of like the damage control they had to do.
definitely.
Everybody. I mean, like, Chris, who I was talking about earlier, like his band that he had pre-COVID, they're not even
Hmm.
together anymore. Like
Yeah.
he's in a completely new band now. And like sometimes, like huge switches like that
I've
are
heard of
needed.
I've heard of a lot of bands breaking up during COVID because of like conflicting levels of like taking COVID seriously. Like someone wanted to tour as soon as possible and someone else didn't, and so that caused the
Yeah,
band to break up.
and that makes a lot of sense. And that's
Yeah.
why I'm a poet and I don't work with anyone.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to, I'm selfish and I don't want to deal with
I've
it.
definitely learned that with writing. Like I've definitely realized that like collaboration for me as I get older it gets easier. I become more passive and like open to other people having creative factors and collaborative things. But when I was younger, I really struggled with that. Whereas like my vision and it's all about me, and these other people are just getting in the way when they should be tools I use to create this. That's not how I thought of it, but like looking back on it, it's eerily close.
Yeah, I get that. I
And
mean, and the way I always looked at it was like, if I'm going to do a collaboration with someone, then that's a side project. That's a collaboration. But
yeah,
like, this is my work, and if anybody's going to come in and help me with my work, this is my project. You do what I
yeah,
say.
exactly. And that's why I've really um, moved away from even like I don't put my books out on Amazon anymore. I don't want. I mean, I'm not opposed to having a publisher or anything, but I've always said that like I haven't seen one yet that I have more comfort in than just doing it myself. I'd rather just do it myself because the goal isn't financial. I'm not looking to make $1 million or minimum
Right.
wage or anything off what I write. I'm doing it to hopefully accomplish new things or break some new ground. Or it's very egotistical. I'm not saying I'm successful at that, but the goal is innovation. And
Right.
I just have not met a publisher yet that would be ride or die with the shit that I do. That's the reason I didn't perform live for a while or plan to with because I released two books that year that you came up for the book release. There was that book, and then I think just like 3 or 4 months later, there was another one out, or maybe it was 1 year later. Yeah, no, I apologize. I released another one shortly after, but then I did the release thing I want to do a year later.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the book, and what I wanted to do, I didn't want to do just another performance because I'd already read once and proved myself I could do that at least to some C out of like 5 out of 10 level where you don't get an F. And so I was like, I want to do something really crazy, and I want to just read the whole thing front to back and record an audiobook live of it. And I was going through the books like, there's no way I could read this in public. This is like, I don't find it offensive, but it's very
But,
crude. It's very violent. It's very controversial in some ways that I recognize. And that's unfair to me to be like, hey, can I come in your coffee shop and say really offensive things for 4 hours? That's just not fair. That's bad business. And if somebody's generous enough to let you perform at their venue, you shouldn't feel as though you're like a thief in the night, you know, just like a covert agent fucking them over. Like they let you in, you walk in the establishment, you reveal there's a bomb underneath your jacket, and the bomb is the book. And I just didn't feel
and
comfortable.
the bomb is a book. I love that.
So I just
I mean,
started,
that's how the government looks at some books now, man.
yeah. No, it's scary, the censorship thing. I just saw about a show today that it's BBC produced it, where they take controversial artists and the audience decides whether to salvage the art or to destroy it. And I think it's really disturbing.
I just realized nobody is gonna be able to see the face I just made.
Yeah, you
This
could
is
like make a
basically like
sound effect maybe.
I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, it's
I'm
absolutely
sorry.
insane.
Who would sign up for that?
I know some of the artists are dead. Like one is Hitler, one is Picasso, one's Rachel Dolenza who is alive, but the review of the show I was reading was saying like, well, Rachel Dolenza isn't the same as someone like Van Gogh or something. So it really misses the whole point of a controversial artist that's brilliant if it's just controversial people with art. Like Hitler wasn't a great artist. He was just an artist who went on to do something else with his life that was significant. So it's not the same as, Michelangelo.
I don't. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm
I,
gonna have to look into this.
I mean, I'm against the show as a whole. Like, I just think like the
Yeah,
celebration of destroying art for like even like the Hitler thing. Like, I'm not a fan of Hitler. I don't want to
that's
get
good.
too.
Let's make sure
Yeah,
everybody hears this. Todd is actually not a fan of Hitler,
yeah.
guys.
His paintings just don't do it for me. But but like I don't think his art's relevant in any cultural way other than he made it, you know? With that
Right.
said, it's still a historical artifact. Like, if you didn't get to, like, should this statue of this, like, slave trader be up in Times Square? Okay, that's something you could say, does this belong in a museum or not? But if it's already in a museum, it's already archived as a historical document rather than, like, a monument, so to speak,
No, no,
then
no, no. See, this is what they should do. It should be people who are obsessed with controversial art stealing it from museums. It's like a weird spin-off of National Treasure. Like I'd
yeah,
watch that.
that could work. I'm sure Nicolas Cage would do it.
It's like, all right, guys, we are gonna go steal the Monet.
We're going to steal Hitler's painting. Why do you want that? We just need to steal Hitler's painting.
I might give it back. Now, I know you're tired. It's getting late.
Yeah.
I always enjoy our conversations. I will say, without giving too much away, because there's still not enough details, but you, me, and Maureen did talk a few months ago
Yeah.
about some possible stuff moving forward with Longshot, you
Yeah.
know, possibly getting some publishing again for other people. So I kind of wanted to just like end the episode with like being like, so, hype up something a little bit,
Yeah.
give people like something to look forward to. I'm definitely gonna have some more shows. We should do something like this when I end up in Pittsburgh too. Maybe
Yeah,
do an
we could do
actual like
one in
live
person.
video one. Oh my gosh, we can actually talk in person?
We could.
That's crazy.
Speaking of COVID stuff, yeah.
I never thought I'd actually see you like for real again, Todd. Like I don't
It's
know
funny
how.
because like when you'll see me in person, I'm actually like 2'4".
Oh my God, you shrank?
Yeah. I got COVID and it shrunk me.
It's like what the next Honey I Shrunk the Kids?
Honey,
Honey
I
COVID
shrunk the
Shrunk
COVID patient.
Me. Oh my God. No, but as we get closer to the new year, which was when, the three of us talked about
Yes.
all of this, we're we're definitely going to have some more detailed information put out there, and I'm excited about that. And I already told you guys that I'm not going for anybody else to publish my next book, so you're kind of stuck with me.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're glad. We're glad you
Yeah, that's
decided to
awesome.
keep us. Um, well, no, it's just because you guys put up with my moody ass.
Oh, it's nothing to put up with. It's like, I mean, I don't notice it ever. Like yeah, I could say I've dealt with bad art. That's not talking shit on people. Like, artists are difficult to deal with, and I've dealt with some difficult ones, and I don't consider you one of them. But how I see it too is like, as a publisher, so like if a friend is having a bad day and they're like, I'm sorry, thank you for dealing with this. I'm like, no, I want to be there for the bad times.
Right.
It's not like a chore. Like, I literally want to be there when you're upset to make you feel better. That's a part of the deal that I
Right.
choose to do. And similarly, I try to do that as a publisher. I mean, I don't think
Well,
I
no,
do a
you
good job
don't.
at it, but
If she say I don't think I do a good job at
no,
it.
I don't. Absolutely not. I think it's mostly circumstantial. I mean, with COVID and all that, but I'm not proud of
I
my work
mean,
in
the
terms of
only
like,
reason I've like continued to like talk to you and like do stuff like this is because like it was one of the best like experiences I ever had working with somebody else. So if that makes you feel any better.
I appreciate that a lot. No, I mean, the electric complex we did, that means a lot to me. I'm very proud of that. I have a lot of
Yeah.
love for that. the COVID thing just crippled the situation so horribly that it's
Yeah,
hard to cope
but
with.
we're coming back. We're coming back. Long shot books 2023. Let's go.
We'll see. Anything can happen.
Oh, fuck. You did it now, Todd. All right,
All
dude,
right.
go to bed.
All right. Thank you guys for listening, and have a good night.